What's up YouTube? Capital G here, checking out the brand new Magikey archetype that just got revealed coming out of Dawn of Majesty, our next core booster set that's going to be released after Lightning Overdrive. I just shot a video earlier today and I was talking about how there haven't been really any new cards revealed in like the last couple of weeks, and maybe Konami was reading my mind. Anyways, the Magikey archetype is really interesting because it kind of reminds me of like Element Sabers. There's a very big emphasis on attributes and also using like vanilla monsters. There's a vanilla monster in this archetype, and then you also are encouraged to use vanilla monsters, so we're gonna have to go outside the archetype. I mean, that's taking me back to like the Dino Rabbit days. I think that's the last time that, you know, we were using like normal monsters in a deck. But this archetype is pretty spicy, and there's a couple of things that make me scratch my head. We'll talk about that in a second. Anyways, your vanilla monster is your Magikey Clavis. And I mean, he's 1900. There's really not much to say about him. He is a Rhoda target. He's a dark warrior monster, so shout outs to Sky Striker Ace Ray. You can run Rhoda in this deck. Well, you're pretty much going to have to run Rhoda in this deck, just like you do in Sky Strikers. His first ritual form is Magikey Blaster Bottle Buster, and this is a machine ritual monster. This is the strange thing. This is a tuner, which... that is like a ritual monster that's also a tuner. That kind of just blows my mind in itself, but there's no synchros in this deck right now, so that's even more strange. But anyways, 2000 attack and 2200 defense. He's got a level 4. The main levels in this archetype are 4 and 8, so it's pretty simple to understand. Now, it says you can ritual summon this card with Magikey Math TF, and that card it's a spell card. I thought initially, just based on the cards, I thought it was a ritual spell, but it's actually not. It lets you fusion summon and ritual summon. We'll talk about that in a second. And then both of your effects are hard once per turn. Actually, excuse me, only the first one is. So the first effect says if this card is ritual summon, you can add any Magikey card from your deck to your hand. I mean, that's just that is just Yu-Gi-Oh 101. That effect obviously is very good. Search the entire archetype. This is basically the Stratos, except it gets everything, spells and traps. Second effect is very bizarre on this card. Once per turn, when an attack is declared involving this card and an opponent's monster with the same attribute as a normal monster or a Magikey monster in your graveyard, you can place any number of cards from your hand to the bottom of the deck. If you do, negate that monster's effects until the end of the turn, then draw cards equal to the number of cards you placed, I guess, at the bottom of your deck. So that is a super bizarre effect, especially to be using in the battle phase. Like I mean, I'm sure it can be good against some cards that have like, you know, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno or something like that, but it's such a weird effect that not only do you negate that monster that you're like battling with effects during the battle phase, but then you're also placing cards. You're basically refixing your hand, or you're fixing your hand. You're taking cards from your hand, putting them on the bottom of your deck and drawing. That effect, that part of it seems really interesting, but I'm really trying to wrap my head around how that is how that's kind of like a practical effect. It feels very niche. Anyways, the level 8 ritual monster is your Magikey Cannon. And this one has 2000 attack and 2800 defense. It's also a machine, and this one is Earth attribute. So you might notice so far we have Dark attribute and Earth attribute. As I said, the attribute pool is kind of all over the place. They don't have Fire, Water, or Light yet, but they've got a bunch of different attributes. This card, well, it says that the second and third are hard once per turn. First effect says it gains 300 attack for each attribute in your graveyard. That the second effect says when your opponent activates an effect of a monster with the same attribute as a monster in your graveyard, and you control this ritual summon card using 2 or more attributes, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. The third effect says if this ritual summon card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Magikey monster from your deck to your hand. So this card is very impressive, and I think that probably the natural play might be to ritual summon the 4 and then try to ritual summon into the 8 using the 4, because I mean, this card's very strong. I mean, basically you have your monster effect negation. It is somewhat conditional, you know. Again, it seems like you're going to have to use multiple attributes to get that monster negation, and then your graveyard is going to have to be set up in a way where you have that same, or where you have a certain attribute in the graveyard. But monster effect negation is monster effect negation. It does destroy as well. And then when this guy obviously dies, or if you use him for fusion or ritual summon material or whatever, then he basically just like rotas for another monster in the archetype. So this card was very impressive. I'm thinking this is going to be the main control card, at least when it comes to monsters for the archetype. We've got 2 fusion monsters for this archetype. The first one is Magikey Summon Beast, and this one is also a tuner, a fusion level 4 tuner. I don't know where they're going with this, man. I'm confused. I mean, it makes more sense to me that this archetype would get Xyz monsters, but yeah, they're probably going to get a synchro. Anyways, it requires a Magikey monster plus a non-token normal monster. So, if it could use a token, that would probably be too easy, but that tells me that we might have to use some vanillas outside of just Clavis in this archetype, because Clavis might be the Magikey monster part of the fusion condition that we want to meet. Anyways, it says if this card is fusion summoned, you can add 1 Magikey Maftia from your graveyard to your hand. So that is, again, the ritual summoning card and also the fusion summoning card. I don't want to call it a ritual spell or fusion spell because it's not. Second effect says once per turn, you can target an opponent's attack position monster with the same attribute as a normal monster or Magikey monster in your graveyard. Change it to defense position, and if you do, it loses 1,000 defense. Third effect, banish any monster destroyed by battle with this card. So basically, it's been a little while since they've had that built into a monster. Anytime I hear that effect, I always think of like Dark Magician of Chaos. But the second effect is pretty good. Basically, your opponent has a big monster on field. Maybe you have the attribute pool lined up and you can shift that monster to defense mode, and then also cut that monster's defense down by 1,000. A lot of boss monsters don't have high defense, but even if it does, it makes it a little bit easier to run over. Doesn't work against Link monsters, unfortunately. Maybe it would have been a little better if it just cut the monster by 1,000 attack and defense, but it's whatever. I think this card is fine. Basically, I see this as basically just kind of a placeholder card. I think you're probably going to use this card to either ritual summon or to fusion summon almost immediately. I don't think you're going to sit on this card very long. The level 8 fusion monster is Wind attribute, and this is Magikey Summon Beast, but it's got a different, I guess, like second name. I'll put it on the screen. I don't want to try to read it. I'm going to end up butchering it. It's level 8, 2,800 attack, 2,000 defense. Now, this one requires a Magikey effect monster plus a non-token normal monster. Now, this archetype, you can't use Clavis because he is a vanilla monster. So you're going to have to use either one of the rituals or the fusion card. Like you're going to have to use one of the rituals or the fusions unless this archetype gets like an effect monster. That's the only way you'll be able to meet the condition using 2 Magikeys, I guess. It says when this card is fusion summoned, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects. Okay, that's definitely good. Second effect, once per turn, you can target a normal monster or Magikey monster in your graveyard. Destroy all monsters your opponent controls with the same attribute. Third effect, once per turn, if an opponent's monster with the same attribute as a monster in your graveyard is destroyed by battle or card effect, and you control this fusion summon card using 2 or more attributes as material, you can draw 1 card. So you can kind of see the theme here. The level 8 monsters have these really strong effects, but it's only if you can like line up their attributes right, not just like the graveyard, but then also like summoning these guys with multiple attributes. Because yeah, killing one of your opponent's monsters and then drawing a card, obviously very nice. Getting monster negation, obviously very nice as well. This is supposed to be, to me, probably not so much a control card, more of like an offensive card, because it does have that potential blowing up your opponent's monsters. And, so far you have a good amount of attributes to work with. You've got earth, you've got fire, or not fire, but you have earth, you have dark attributes. So maybe we're going to need a light attribute to make that a little easier. But, that can be where running a bunch of different vanillas definitely can come in. Now, when it comes to the Magikey Maftia, which is the card that we're going to need to ritual summon and also to fusion summon. This is a normal spell card, and it says fusion summon 1 Magikey fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters on your hand or monsters from your hand/field as fusion material, or you can ritual summon a Magikey ritual monster by attributing monsters from your hand and field equal to the level or exceeding the level, blah, 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 blah. It says if you control a normal monster, you can also send 1 normal monster from your deck to the graveyard as fusion material or for one of the ritual monsters for the ritual summon. So this is where I'm thinking maybe you're gonna have to play some vanilla monsters outside of this archetype, because yeah, you could just normal summon Cleavis and then activate your Maftia and then use like another Cleavis from your deck. But that might not always fulfill the conditions. Like you won't be able to have like double attributes put into these ritual infusion monsters. So at that point, you'll just be using 2 darts and you won't be getting like their crazy bonus effects. So I think that maybe we're gonna have to run some vanillas, or maybe this archetype will get another vanilla. I mean, if you're looking at like the lore of this archetype, it's just one guy. He looks like Edward from Full Metal Alchemist, but I don't think there are any other characters. It's just basically him and his gun. Now we have a field spell for this archetype. And it says it's a hard once per turn when it comes to activating it, and then it's a hard once per turn on the third effect. The first effect says when this card resolves, you can add 1 Magikey monster from your deck to your hand. That's your typical Rhoda field spell. I'm not sure why they worded it like that. I mean, Konami has been building Rhodas into field spells for forever. This is like the first time I've seen resolves on it, but for all intents and purposes, it works just like, you know, Magical Meltdown, Trickstar Light Stage, Hidden City, all that good stuff. Second effect says each time a normal monster you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, except tokens, it is not destroyed. Man, if this deck worked with tokens, that'd be so nuts with Scapegoat. Third effect says during your main phase, you can add 1 Magikey Maftia from your deck to your hand, and then place 1 card from the hand to the bottom of your deck. So third effect is basically making it so that you can get to the ritual spell / fusion spell at any time that you want, at the cost of just, you know, putting another card at the bottom of your deck. To me, this is just obviously a 3 of. I mean, it searches any monster in the deck the second you activate it, and then it also gets you your utility spell, your spell that you basically need to play the game. So I don't think that there's any downsides for this card, basically. We've got 2 trap cards. One of them is a counter trap. The other one is okay. So Connected Magikey is a normal trap. It says target a normal Magikey monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, then you can apply one of these effects. So the effects either let you fusion summon or they let you ritual summon. You do have the ritual summon in defense mode, which actually both summons are in defense mode. So I guess that's like the major downside. But yeah, discard's kind of like, I guess, other effect, not just adding a monster from your graveyard to your hand, is the fact that it does let you fusion and or ritual summon during your opponent's turn. Monster's got to be in defense mode though, or I guess you could even use it in like the battle phase, but again, they're in defense mode, so how much damage you're really doing. The counter trap I love. Counter trap's really good. This is Magikey Lock Unlock, and it's a counter trap with a hard once per turn. When your opponent activates a spell / trap while you control a Magikey or, Magikey Ritual monster or a Magikey monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, negate that activation, and if you do destroy that card, then you can declare 1 attribute. All face-up monsters your opponent controls become the declared attribute until the end of the turn. So this is nice. Not only does this adjust your opponent's monster's attributes so that, you know, it can be obviously a little easier to make sure that you get like the monster negation, but it's also just a easy to use spell and trap negator. I mean, if you go for the level 4 ritual, like you can instantly search this card and basically have a quick negation even with nothing else. Basically, you can just add this card, set it, and then negate one of your opponent's like power spells and traps. So this archetype seems very interesting. I want to see what else people are going to run in this deck other than just the Magikey monsters, because as of right now, I definitely don't think that it's enough. Like, this archetype does not have enough, in my opinion, to be played pure, but it's definitely a super interesting archetype. I want to see exactly what the like play style is going to be. Anyways, whatever you guys think of Magikey, you leave that in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching as always.